Hi friends, my name is Katie. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a wrap-up for you, but it's going to be kind of a mess. I'm terribly sorry. Usually for my wrap-ups, I refer to my Goodreads review, but this month I didn't do really any Goodreads reviews, and so I'm just going to talk off the cuff, which is never a good idea for me because I'm a little bit of a scatterbrain. I am not always super articulate. We're just going to see how this goes. Luckily, I only have 4 books to talk about. Alright, so to start off the month, I finished Ship of Magic. I absolutely freaking loved this book. It was so good. I could not put it down. As many of you know, I loved the Farseer trilogy. It was one of my favorite books / series from last year. But I gotta say, this one book blew that whole trilogy out of the water. The characters were so engaging. There were characters that you absolutely loved, characters that you hated, and one of the things that I really enjoyed about this book is that there are a lot more women in the book. And in the Farseer trilogy, I don't think there's one main character that's a woman, and in this book, like half or 3/4 of the main characters that we follow are women. And I really loved that. I loved getting a female perspective, and I loved the women in the book. I'm going to try to explain what this series is about, or at least this first book. It basically follows a family, the Vestrits. In the city in which the Vestrits live, they are part of a community of traders. And the old traders in the city, most of them have live ships. And when 3 successive generations die aboard their live ship, the ship actually comes to life. The figurehead on the front of the ship comes alive. Althea, the daughter of the Vestrits, thinks that she is going to inherit the live ship, but that doesn't end up happening. That is kind of the fulcrum around which the rest of the story hinges. You get pulled into the story really quickly and things start to make sense almost right away within the first few chapters. And it was so engaging, so well written, the characters were so fleshed out. This is one of those books that I think has the perfect balance of amazing plot and amazing characters. It was just so great. I think I can stop talking about it now. Next, I did a group buddy read of Homegoing by Ya Jessie, and I was blown away by this book. I thought it was brilliant. I cannot believe that this woman is a debut author. I don't even think she's 30 yet, which is insane to me. This book follows 2 sisters. One of the sisters gets married off to a slave trader, and the other sister gets traded as a slave. And every chapter follows the successive generations of those 2 sisters. The scope of this book is huge, and I find it incredible that she was able to accomplish what she set out to do, which is basically telling the story of the transatlantic slave trade through the eyes of each generation from the 1700s until today. It's almost like she wanted to tell a story, and yet in order to tell that one story, she had to tell a much bigger story. And she did it, and she did it in a way that was personal and reflective and hard-hitting. It was emotional, and she was able to write in a way in which you connect with every character that you learn about. The only thing I'd say is that maybe sometimes you want to hear more of that character's story. I also think this quote tells you a little bit about what the story is about. He had always said that the joining of a man and woman was also the joining of 2 families. Ancestors, whole histories came with the act, but so did sins and curses. And I think that explains the book as well, because in every generation you see how the previous generation and the decisions they make, as well as the decisions that were made for them, affect the lives of every generation onward. It was brilliantly done, and this is one of those books that I feel like everyone should read. I feel like shoving it into everyone's hands. I can't wait to recommend this to people in my own life and tell them that they need to read it. It was just excellent. Next, I read a nonfiction book called Confident Pluralism, and this one I'm going to have a very hard time talking about because it was really complex, very thought-provoking. Another book that I feel like everyone should read. The book is called Confident Pluralism, and the subtitle is Surviving and Thriving Through Deep Difference. And as we know, in our country, and probably the world, we are deeply divided on issues that are really personal to us, and on issues that we stand firmly on and find the opposite side reprehensible, and no matter which side you fall on, you find the other side reprehensible, morally reprehensible in some way. And so what John Inazu sets out to do is to talk about what it means to live in a pluralistic society and the benefits of living in a pluralistic society, and how we can both exist, and not just exist, but be in relationship with each other even when we find deep differences. The first half of the book, and it's really short, the first half of the book talks about the constitutional side of things, and the second half of the book talks about the personal relationship side of things. So, and this is why it's so hard to talk about. He gets really in depth with the law. He himself is a lawyer. He teaches law at Wash U in St. Louis. When he talks about the law, when he talks about the Constitution, it can get a little bit thick, hard to wade through if you don't have a lot of understanding about the law or the Constitution. And I should also say that he holds no prisoners, whether you are conservative or whether you are liberal. He talks about how pluralism is important for everyone, no matter where you fall on the political spectrum. I really recommend it. I feel like it probably will make some people's hackles go up a little bit because he doesn't take sides. But anyway, I found it a very profound and important read. Finally, to end the month, I read Maud. I really, really wanted to get a review video up of this before now, but it didn't happen because I haven't written out my thoughts on the book yet. I still plan on doing a review really soon, but I really, really want to write down my thoughts because I want the review to be thoughtful and thorough. But I will just give you some general thoughts about the book. So, this is Maud by Melanie Fishbane. It's a novel inspired by the life of Ella Montgomery, particularly the teen years. When I started the book, I had just finished Homegoing, and I was also in the middle of Middlemarch. To go from those books that were really profound in theme and message and writing to this book, which is YA, so it's written more simply, and I had a really hard time making that switch at first. But once I got into it, I really fell in love with it. I think that she was able to bring Maud to life in ways that were so beautiful and also so heartbreaking. I knew that Ella Montgomery lived kind of a sad life, but I'm not sure until this book I realized just how sad it was. Maud was not an orphan, but she might as well have been an orphan. Her mother died when she was very young, and her father didn't take her in, so she went to live with her grandparents. But her grandparents took her in more out of duty than out of love. She grew up in a situation in which she wasn't really wanted, she wasn't really loved, and in this book she is sent from her grandparents to live with her father and her father's young wife, who's only a few years older than Maud herself. So this book is really about Maud and her life with her grandparents, and then moving and living with her father. It's about young love, and it's also about dreams and what she will do to reach her dreams. One of the things that I loved most about this book was that you can see the inspiration for almost all of the books that she wrote as an adult in her own life. But in the books that she wrote, it's a much rosier picture than her own life. It's as if she was writing the lives that she wished for herself. At least in Anne of Green Gables. I haven't read a lot of her other books, so I don't know. I've heard that Emily is a little truer to the kind of childhood that Maud herself had, but I just have a feeling, don't quote me on this, but I just have a feeling that even in those books, when the circumstances are a little more dire, there's a little bit of a rosy hue put over those lives. I could see Anne of Green Gables all over this book, from the names that Maud herself gives to the places on Prince Edward Island to some of the characters. I could see Maud's influences everywhere, and that was amazing in this book. Melanie Fishbane did an incredible amount of research, and at the end of the book there's an epilogue where she explains what happened to each one of these characters, including Maud herself, and kind of a brief picture of what the rest of Maud's life looked like. And it was quite bittersweet, although the ending of this book was really beautiful and brought me to tears. I really ended up loving this book so much. As a postscript, I'll say that you don't need to read any of Ella Montgomery's work to read and enjoy this book, although I think that you will appreciate this book a lot more if you are familiar with Ellen Montgomery's work. So take that into consideration if you're thinking about picking up this book. For my more perceptive viewers, you will have noticed that I still have not finished Middlemarch, but I have less than 100 pages to go. And there were some other books that were on my TBR that I started but didn't finish, but I'm almost done with those too. Unfortunately, I couldn't include them in my wrap-up, but they'll be in May's wrap-up for sure. So anyway, I hope you are all having a fantastic beginning of the month. I'll be back soon with a review of Maud, I promise. Look out for that. And I hope that this wrap-up wasn't as messy as it felt to me. I will talk to you all later. Bye! Are you gonna sit here and watch me? I'm recording right now. One of these days I'm just gonna leave that in there. I can't tell you how many times he's done that into the camera. Just like that. Just like that. I'm married to a child.
Man-child.
A man-child.